Right, we're calling to order the May 9th, 2023 Thurston County District 8 Commissioner meeting. And to begin with, we'll ask if there are any public comments. I don't see anyone from the public on the Zoom. And I assume there are none here. Okay, so we'll move right along then to our community outreach team. And Mr. Bonser.
All right, well, I have a couple things to talk about, get you guys caught up. I sent a couple things to Heidi. We have 4 posts. I still have to do the bios. I owe Chief bios on them, but as far as the posts go, we have created them imagery wise, and we're working on the other ones. We divide them up amongst the group. So I was just gonna share with you guys a little bit of progress on what we've accomplished so far. You can do levy post 1, that's the first one that we do. So that's just letting everybody know that we are going for levy restoration, but really the important part and the thing that I'm super happy with is we were able to find a way to capture the logo and use that in all the levy posts. We're gonna be using that logo in the corner of all of our department specific posts. If we take a photo of on scene, if you guys have noticed, I've tried to use that and throw it in there. So that'll be the first post, and I'll have some bio going along with it. You want to exit out that one. Oh, I guess that one skips ahead. So this is part of the mission, vision, and values. There's going to be 3 separate posts. This is just a culmination of pictures of us in the community responding to scenes, and then also pictures of us engaging with our community members. It'll have a bio about what our mission is. And that'll go out as well. So there'll be 3 with that one. You can just go to the next one. I'm sure which order it'll be.
Post 2.
So that's just announcing that we did have a levy restoration meeting. We'll also do another one when we do another one, we'll put it up there before the meeting. So hopefully we can draw some more people in, but that's also that message is directing people to our website to queue into it if they want to listen to it. So that'll go after that'll be the second post that we made. And the last one, which is like the middle one, this is the history post. So we were able to utilize some of the old photos that are in the shared drive, and then I utilized the 70th anniversary logo just to kind of represent the 70th. And we'll do that in June as well when we get to our actual 70th, we'll use it there. So that'll be kind of the flavor of what our levy posts look like for the public on the social media side. So yeah, like I said, more to come. I owe a couple bios, and then those are going to start rolling out here really quickly. We have a COT meeting tomorrow. That's actually our first that we've had in a few months. It's just going to be about COT and not necessarily about levy. We've got that kind of spaced out, dialed in. We know what we need to do. We just got to execute it and finish it. So tomorrow is going to be about getting back on track with how we engage with the community members about what their current risk or things that we should be worried about for this time of year. So right now it's going to be getting ready for wildland season. So we're going to be talking about things that people can be doing to prepare their home. We got some weird weather coming our way, so we'll be making some posts about inclement heat and how people can go about staying hydrated, stuff like that. So I'm gonna meet with everybody tomorrow. Hopefully we can get some really good South Bay specific posts. So at least having pictures of us engaging, I'd really like to see that happen, even though it's more of a holistic kind of approach to what people should be concerned about. And then on the Pub Ed side, I met with Chief LeMay. I had a list of things we did last year and things I'd like to do this year. The executive team got together and we put priorities to it. So our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 kind of responses to how we're gonna go about fulfilling those Pub Ed events. So we've got coming up, Chief LeMay has got the SBE outdoor market, which he's gonna be going to this Saturday. Then next weekend, the 21st, we have the Capital City Marathon. So that's gonna be running by Station 83. So at this point, I still have to line it out, but at the very least, we're gonna have the crew on that day, put up the awning and have some water out there for them as they come by. Hopefully you can catch some photos of that. And then in June, we've got the Strawberry Festival, which we will have at least a booth at. And we will be sure to fulfill that. And then we just got confirmation that June 16th, I believe. Oh, no, sorry, June 17th is the South Bay Egg Drop. So we did that last year with Truck 31. We're gonna do it again this year. And then we've got the last day. So June's our busy month, but that's what we got coming up. So, any questions? Great.
Says 2 participants under, I don't know. if you
Oh.
need to let them in.
Where?
On the bottom.
The left of the
Yeah, I
green.
don't know if you have
Share
like
screen.
a waiting room. for people in that.
He's in, and the host is,
Okay,
Us.
so I'm
Yes,
sure
yeah.
like somebody else. Did. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all I got. Yeah.
And you said have your COP meeting tomorrow?
Yep.
What time is that?
10. Here.
I'll see if I can make it.
Yeah.
If you don't mind a visit.
No, absolutely. I love when people can come in and get to know what we have to talk about.
Question, is there still another newsletter coming out or a mailer going out before the?
yes, there's a newsletter that is in process right now and hopefully will be out in the next couple weeks. Or a week, actually.
And are we doing a mailer for the levy?
No, we are not doing a mailer for the levy at this point. The chief referenced the levy in the newsletter. But we haven't made any decision to do that. And personally, I think because of all the bad publicity that the other fire departments were getting, it might be in our best interest to not mail a flyer and do it other ways, you know?
So when is this going out then?
That isn't going out. That's something we're handing out.
Okay,
We weren't planning on mailing.
okay. This is that proposition.
Yeah, the trifold.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is very nice, by the way.
We haven't ruled out sending out a specific ballot measure flyer yet. If we do, it will probably be about a month out from the actual election, sending it out in July. So I'm gonna kind of play it by ear. That's fairly easy to put together and we can get that in the mail and do a bulk mailing like we do with the newsletter. The newsletter will have a reference to announcing it, saying pretty much what Drew just said, that we've had a workshop, the information's on the website and everything. So we've also had some exposure. We've advertised in the Olympian and on our social media, on our website and so forth for pro and con committee. We're required to do that. We did have had basically crickets out there. One person inquired, and he lived in Lacey, wasn't even in the district. One person showed some interest, not sure how committed they are to it. So we haven't heard any really firm offers back yet, pro or con. So, but we're doing our best. By Friday, we'll notify the county auditor of any findings we have or not. And then it will be up to them to find people.
And you all got the article that was put out by Jolt. Yeah. And they're happy to do stories going forward on whatever, our history or whatever.
So I think we've had some pretty fair exposure. Keep pushing it ahead. One of the things we're trying to do internally is using a standard script that Drew mentioned that all of our people would be aware of if asked a question, if they're on a scene, you know, and the customer, the homeowner asks questions about it, they'll be able to provide an educated answer, and we're putting the trifolds on vehicles too. So if somebody wants one, then we can hand it to them on a one-on-one basis. So that's kind of where we are right now. So it is a possibility, and depending on what opportunities arise, I'm kind of scanning the horizon here, but it is possible we could possibly host another workshop. Seems appropriate. I'd be willing to do that.
Are you doing anything proactive to contact people who might be willing to participate on a committee?
I personally have not, no.
Do you think we should?
As a citizen, we can. I've talked to some people early on, and there was a lot of interest there, but if I see an opportunity to sit as a band camp, I will. But I haven't heard anything. And we put it out there as much as I think we can reasonably do.
We had two people show an interest. One turns out was not in our district, and the other one is going to be on the committee.
Oh,
Yeah, he said he would, so. But it could be a committee of one.
are they pro or con?
Pro.
Oh,
That was Pat Hart, the gentleman that attended our
Oh,
meeting a few times before.
I just want to say through the work that you and the committee are doing is great. And I appreciate you guys all.
it's a great asset.
It really is.
Okay, thanks, Drew. Appreciate your information. We're on to the chief's report.
I did get the chance to send out the report last week. I don't think anybody had any comments, questions.
Look good, look good, look good. No questions.
I think there were fewer spelling errors this time.
I didn't see
Working
any.
on it.
I might ask just a little bit about that radio problem.
Oh,
How did that turn out?
It was a combination, I think, of procedure and technology. So again, we're in the midst, as you know, of changing our technology. In fact, we'll be placing, hopefully within a month or so, all the new portable radios into place, which may help. Jury's out on that yet. We have all new mobile radios, which seem to be working pretty well. Part of it was the technology. We've looked at things that we can do, and I'll be very brief about it, but there's two brands of frequency. There's one that's a repeated frequency and the one that's not. So we were working at that incident on a repeated frequency, and one of the side effects of doing that may be if the person pushes the button on the radio is not able to catch the repeater, which in our case is out by Camilchi, they don't get out. And I think that's what happened. So the thing that we're looking at is changing our tactics a bit, where we would operate on a simplex frequency, which doesn't have as much distance, but it has better ability to communicate with the on-scene staff that are there. So I think that's what we're going to do. Some departments have done that. So that's one of the things we'll probably talk about at our next officers meeting. Get that embedded into our technology.
so was it just our fire department that was having that issue?
It was an incident specific thing. We had a fire and the crew was inside, and our incident commander was attempting to contact the crew inside. While they were hearing it, they weren't able to report back that they were. So our incident commander wasn't hearing anything, and he got obviously, reasonably nervous about it. They dealt with it. They got it fixed, but I think people took it very seriously, and I think we had a very good discussion about it at the EC and the PC meeting. So,
Thank you.
you bet.
Staffing report.
All right. Thanks to Janet, she's been doing a great job of processing our new volunteers. So we've had a good last turnout. We have 7 new members. So 2 of those are lateral firefighter and EMT already up and done, and they'll be going right on to shift. So they already are on shift. And we got the other 5 that we'll be getting out to. We're putting some in the EMT academy, or heavier stack than that. We're a little bit shyer on EMT, so we're fire lately. Usually we do fire first, but we have some reason to beef up our EMT capacity. So we're going to be doing some EMT first. We got them assigned out. And what that did, it was kind of interesting on our platoon chart, it actually puts us at 11 volunteers on A, not counting 2 on LOA. We have 11 volunteers on B and 12 volunteers on C platoon plus 1 on LOA. So we're actually at that number we've been shooting for. We were looking at going from 10 to 12 volunteers per platoon. And we can give a little extra if we had a little extra, but we're actually at that volunteer numbers wise. But of course, the challenge still is the pieces we're missing are most of them aren't driver operators. So that tends to be the big ongoing challenge. But head counts wise, that helped out and kind of put us back up into those, into that range. And then of course, the downside is 3 more people have now gotten conditional offers. So 3 more are heading out. So, so it's still gonna bring us up and down, but we'll wait until the official, they have to tell us they quit. Usually we hear through the grapevine that somebody got good news, so good for them, but it's gonna take us back down again. So that puts us that where another point, so there's on the staffing. I was gonna kind of roll into the resident program all as one talk, if I may. One of the other challenges that gave us is I had 3 names that were supposed to be interested in going into the resident house. And then of course, 2 of those were the ones that just got hired and picked up. So there's a good chance that I might have 1 person to move into the resident house. And one of the changes, just follow up and remind you of our discussion we had before. Previously, we were looking at having the firefighter, EMT, and driver operator already qualified to move in and be a resident. We're finding that we have nobody with that. So what we did is decided to be a little bit more flexible. And it's a driver operator piece. It's generally the main thing that we don't have people that have in order to move in. So what we are looking at doing, I still have to document everything, but just to kind of give you an update on what we're planning on doing, is require still their firefighter EMT to go be in the resident house, but we're gonna give them 12 months to get spun up on their driver endorsement. So they can get their EBIT and they can have some time. We'll put them on a structured growth plan with benchmarks, of course, so that by month 13, you're still living there because you're a driver. So give them a little bit of that opportunity. And with that, I am thinking that we might have 1 be able to move in here soon enough. We already have 1 out there. Lieutenant Ledoux, of course, can be the senior resident, but we should hopefully, unless my 1 person also gets hired here in the next month and decides he's going to move too. But that would be 1 more in there. So I'm talking with Chief a lot about it, and we're trying to make it work. But at the same time, the numbers are not overwhelmingly flooding through. But the other good news on it is it's becoming a pretty good recruitment tool. We talked to Bates Community College, and that's a great source because they've already got firefighter EMTs in their program. So they have that opportunity to come in, lateral in with us already, firefighter EMTs, get them on there. And that's also the same demographic that's looking to move off of mom's couch and into their own house. So
That's nice.
trying to be optimistic on that, but hopefully with lateral growth and attraction to coming in. What they would do is they come in and volunteer with us first, and then they're eligible to apply for the resident program. Because they still have to get their EMT local protocol and all that stuff. And then going forward for that. So with any luck, hopefully here in another month or so, we might have 2 residents. That's the overview. If you want any details, I'm happy to dig into it. Otherwise, that's kind of where we are.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Harmless. Mr. Hall, Chief Hall, our health and safety program
You
update.
gotta follow that, come on. I too been a busy bee around here. I will talk about 4 things today. First of all, I can talk about the safety committee. We had our last meeting for the quarter. We elected Dave Dodge to be the chair of the safety committee, and then Richard Freed to be the vice chair. And they're dueling out right now what those 2 roles look like for responsibilities and all that. And I've been working with them on timelines of when they produce a report, so I can get it to all the department heads for change or fixing something or any of that stuff. Ryan Thakema was added to the safety committee.
And yeah, so it seems to be working out pretty good, and I'm really happy with all the work that everybody's been doing on that, and it seems to have a high amount of energy right now. I'd like to keep that going. Everybody else has vested interest in that too, so pretty happy about that. A part of that was when we went to the training in Tampa, it sparked some interest in our safety inspections, and that's one of those coat hanger deals everybody always talks about, and we dove into a little bit, and then we pulled out like 5 coat hangers. So the whole entire thing needed to get revamped and re-sparked up. So we put a lot of work into this one with a lot of good feedback from members, and we broke up the safety checks into monthly checks and weekly checks. The monthly checks are bound to safety checks for the law, and that consists of unstaffed rigs need to be have a rig check on them monthly. So that would be our Station 82 apparatus. Our SCB bottles and packs need to be checked monthly. Our stations, every single, not the station, every single building needs to be inspected every month, and their ladders need to be inspected every month. So we broke that up into assignments on the first 4 Sundays of each month creates the assignment for that platoon. So then they would be responsible for that throughout the month. They don't have to get it done that Sunday, but it does disperse out the workload across all platoons. And what it does is get different eyes and hands on all the checks also. So kind of a primary search, secondary search kind of deal to it. And then we broke up the weekly rig checks. So a daily rig check is more along the lines of, is everything there and are we good to go for the day? But a weekly is more of a detailed, fine-tuned, pull everything out, reorganize stuff, clean out things, disinfect, clean the rig, and then put a bit more time into it. So we broke those up into Monday through Friday. And then those would be like on Monday would be Engine 81, Engine 83, and Battalion 8. The tenders 81, 83 are on Tuesday. Wednesday is the 8 units. Thursday is the brush and Engine 84. And then the utility vehicles are on Friday. So by doing this, once again, it disperses out. It's not just one platoon doing some work and then it gets doubled up by another platoon. This is a very methodical way of trying to get everything done in a matter that people can actually do it in. So we're not doing the entire day on it. We identified our documentation for this. It's all done in our little Halligan app. So we can do everything remotely with the checks, and we can audit it very easily with that. And the safety committee is going to audit the safety checks for compliance each time they meet. So I'm really excited about this one. The next thing I want to talk about is the fire program through LNI. We just had our monthly meeting today at 10 a.m. What's coming up next for the fire program is the grant application opened up. Last year, we used our safety improvement plan, and that is identified through injury reduction and carcinogen reduction, that sort of safety plan. And what we did last year was put in for a stair chair to one with the treads on it, so we can go down stairs rather easily. And so we got that grant last year. Last year for the carcinogen reduction, we identified a second set of bunker gear would be very nice to help with the carcinogen reduction to improve the cleanliness of the gear and the turnover rate of which we can get into another set at post-fire or post-incident that we need to do cleaner gear. We didn't put out for a grant for that last year, and this has been a huge discussion point with FNE and the chiefs about how, if we were to do this, how would we go about it? How would we buy the gear? And since then, the new 4-letter word PFAS came out, and we had to kind of pump the brakes on a second set a little bit, so we don't buy another set of PFAS gear. If you guys aren't familiar, PFAS is a chemical that is a water repellent and
Like retardant.
no, this is well, it's kind of sort of, because it's a flammable repellent also, so it's oil repellent and a water repellent. So another way of reducing our carcinogen exposure to our PPE is having maybe a different type of uniform, like we go back in time a little bit, perhaps a jumpsuit for nighttime calls. So we're not putting on our bunker gear unless we have to. So one of those deals, it's still in the works. We're still talking about it, but that's the big hype right now is all this PFAS stuff. So there's so much information that it's confusing about what to do. So, but I do know we can do stuff that doesn't cost any money, which is behavioral change and stuff that may cost a little bit of money to reduce our time exposure. So we're trying to work through all that right now. I don't know what's going to look like. But like I said, the grant application is due in June, and I'll be working with the safety committee and my assistant to work through this, to update the safety improvement plan to go out for a grant for something. So last thing I want to talk about today is mental health. We had a huge, we found, I have really high hopes about this gentleman named Mike Washington. We signed a contract with him for our clinician for mental health. We had our first training with him and the people from the support group over at District 3, and we did a diffusion training for our officers. And I think it's 7 pillars of resiliency, and this is one of them, is diffusion. And diffusion, the concept of it is after a call, it's a way to bring up the call without saying you good. Because I always say I'm fine. You know, that's the use that you get from after a call, I'm fine. But this is a way to look at it a different way and bring up the call in a way that people can talk about it. And it's pretty informal the way it's delivered, but it has a high impact, I believe. So pretty happy with that. And then with that, we're adding 3 people to our peer support team. That training is this month, 24th and 27th. And we're adding 1 person to the CISD team for the county. Really happy about that and get some insight on how that team works and what they can do for us and what we can do for them, and that whole support. So that'd be the next level up. If we had a critical incident debriefing, this team would come in. So we're getting plugged in with a bunch of different support groups and whatnot. Really happy about that. Is there any questions about anything? Or clarification?
Sounds like a full schedule.
Oh, I've been a busy bee.
I have one question or clarification.
Yeah.
The PFAS stuff you were talking about, were you gonna put that in for grant dollars to support that, or
Well, no,
is that
that-
just something you're talking about separately?
No, that it's because it's on our gear and it's a carcinogen, and it's the newest thing everybody's talking about. They became aware of all this. PFAS is in everything. Like it's in this carpet. Anything that's repellent. So it's about trying to figure out, get educated on what it is, what it does to us, what stuff that we have that it has it in, and then try to figure out what to do with it, whether we behavioral change to not wear our gear unless it's a fire call, to we're gonna be smart about it and have different uniforms for certain things, or like
Yeah.
it's
That makes sense.
a quandary. So,
Okay, I get it now.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, other questions? Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Very comprehensive. All right, we're down to our capital project bidding process, and Mr. McBride. Are you still there, Mr. McBride?
I'm here. Good evening. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
So we are planning on opening bids next Tuesday. There was a miscommunication between the date we published and what was on the bid documents. So in order to not hopefully upset any contractors that we're planning on bidding, as well as having opportunity to give more time for contractors to give an opportunity to bid and bid a more hopefully fair price that we would be happy with. We will be closing bids next Tuesday at 2 p.m. And then we'll be working with our engineer that we've contracted with and going through which contractors we believe meet our requirements, and then have a separate meeting to recommend for your approval.
Okay, and when did the advertisement go out?
Let's see, look at my calendar. It went out. Believe it was the last week of April.
Okay, so and then the bid opening period then was
We had
Yeah.
anticipated for having it today or yesterday so that we could have a recommendation for today's meeting. However, it'll end up being next Tuesday.
yeah, all right. I was just trying to do the math on how many days that was. We were allowing contractors to put a bid together.
Yeah, we have talked to our engineer, and it sounds like there's been quite a bit of interest for people coming and getting bid packets. Sounds like more than last time, so I hope that's a good sign. There's some names that we haven't seen before, so hopefully that helps too. Get a competitive price.
Yeah, it's good. Any other questions for Chief McBride?
Just a comment, so the bid opening is on the 16th, Brent?
Correct.
Yeah, we were hoping that we could ask for a special meeting that could be done virtually, but have Brent present the recommendation and then have the board approve the award. So it began work, and we were looking at Tuesday, the 23rd. It would be a single subject meeting, take anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, I think. It could be done entirely remotely if you all wanted to.
Okay.
Do it in the morning.
Do you want to do it during the day, Brent, or it would be at the availability of the board members, but
The morning, anytime after 8:30 typically works for me.
so generally, we can have Heidi kind of send out when the best time would be,
Yeah.
sometime on the 23rd. would that
23rd.
be?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay,
We have an LMC meeting that day. Early.
Pardon?
Isn't that an LMC meeting that day? Earlier in the day.
The only time I can is 3:20 because I have a doctor's.
Not on the
Not
23rd.
on the 23rd.
LMC is scheduled for the 17th.
Okay, yeah, I can. Otherwise, I'm available earlier.
Okay, so that's what we'll do, Brent. We'll work with Heidi and schedule something for the 23rd.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions about that? Once we get done with this project, then we will begin tackling the Station 83 project more.
Brent, just a quick question on the 23rd. You'll send out information ahead of time so we have time to digest it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll have about a week. We'll get that out. Plenty of time.
Appreciate that.
anything else on that?
Thank you, Brent.
You bet.
All right, moving down to the district master plan review. Chief and I had a meeting here a couple weeks ago and went through the master plan. And I had some comments about sort of updating some of the pieces in here. Actually, those were pretty common between the two of us in terms of some of the things that we had. Find my notes here that I had. With regard to the adopted, our existing 2023 goals and that kind of thing. We talked a little bit about goal number 3, which is the district will update its position descriptions and position requirements. We had some conversation about that at the last commissioners meeting. There were some dates that are in here that look like they need to be revised and updated a little bit. The other piece we talked about was regarding maintenance and operations and some of the way that we have the vehicle replacements laid out. I think there were some things that were out of order with regard to what was going on. We talked about the replacement of the existing pickup truck that has the wildland pack in the back and the vehicle that was ordered, and we're still waiting to hear if they're ever going to make that for us. Of course, we've got the engine that we ordered and prepaid for, and waiting to hear, of course, kind of what the timeline on that was. We had a projected worst case scenario of 3 years, something like that. Other things that you recall, Chief?
I think it was, my impression was it was more, we're generally moving per plan. I mean, there weren't any major things that either of us felt that needed to be major course corrections, just some fine tuning. One of the things that we did talk about was a way to really take an update of our how we do business in our various branches that we have. And those that were approved, which commonly known as the Phase 3 master plan, are pretty aged now. I mean, they're 3 or 4 years old. So one of the things that I want to do in 24 is, as one of our annual business plan goals, is to have the branch managers from each of those areas update the actual master plan document. I think that will help address some of the things that we talked about, some of the details about replacing apparatus and how many we want to have. Certainly training will be a big one. Health and safety has changed significantly since we adopted that plan in 2019. So that will be, I would see it in one of the activities in 24 will be looking at each of those Phase 3 master plans and updating.
Right. Yeah, and along those lines, towards the end of the year, when you're doing the performance development plans and that, you're establishing the expectations for 2024. We have our staff members that have their specific duties that right word is their pro pay,
Well, business
their
function.
business function, and that kind of thing, is to make sure that we understand what it is we want to have those folks do, whether there is additional education in terms of that business function that they need to achieve, or specific targets on achievement within that business function. And so I think those are the kinds of things that need to be tweaked a little bit. And there's going to be some development work there to talk about after the position descriptions become outlined and we know what those boundaries are. Then what are reasonable expectations for the next year, the year after that, et cetera, so that we see some growth and improvement in those various business functions. That's all I recall. That and the chips and salsa were really good when we had that lunch.
So I guess the bottom line is that we validated where our course of action is now and continue on with the outline that we have for this year. I think that met the intent.
Right.
the process.
Yeah, I did, in general, yeah, I agree. I mean, we've done a lot of work to lay out this pathway. And there is, we're still on the pathway. We just need to do some small course corrections and get some more definition for ourselves so that we're making sure our achievements are continuing forward.
Can I ask a couple of questions? Do you all think that it would be needed, and I'm looking at the next step in the process. The idea was at this stage to be kind of teeing up discussion that the board and chief need to have together about planning for next year. Do we need to update the long-range plans? And more specifically, what are our plans for next year? Are you saying that you don't think we need to have any discussion on that, or that it could be streamlined and it's not? And I agree, we've set a course and we're on it, and generally we need to find maybe. But is there value in us as a board having a meeting focused on planning for next year to then give you kind of direction as you're writing up your budget policy and planning budget for next year?
I think there are a couple of things. One is kind of stopping, taking stock of where we are. And that's what I tried to do somewhat last month, is how we got here, so that we all had a context of how we decided what we wanted to do. And I think that Doug took, and I took it from that point on. So we've got this. How are we doing? And are we following the plan? And generally, we felt that we did. I think the plan needs some tweaking. So I think probably the bulk of the tweaking will be as part of the process of 24, so that at the end of 24, we'll have an updated phase 3 plan. I don't think that there was anything in our master plan, like we'll call phase 1 and 2, seems fairly valid. I mean, the plan essentially is we will continue to operate from 2 fire stations, or our goal is to operate effectively from 2 fire stations. We'll do things that are necessary to provide the resources to do that. And then when we have sufficient and consistent staffing at both stations, and we'll look at potentially relocating one on the east side so that we have better coverage on the east side. So that plan is still valid as far as.
I agree. I'm really, I think, getting at the second step in here specifically talks about doing some analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I don't know if y'all had that discussion, but as I think about that framework and looking at what's happening for us over the next 18 months, there's 2 critical events. One is the levy this year, and the second one is levy the following year.
Right.
And when I think about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats relative to those, I think the potential for recession is a very significant threat. And I think an unengaged, confused, misinformed electorate is also part of that. And I think we're doing a lot of really good things with the communications efforts to manage that. But I think we need to really be serious about thinking through what we do if that second levy was passed. I personally think there may be some other issues like that that are worth us as a board working with the chief, spending some time talking about and really having some sense of what's our plan in those different scenarios. I know we've talked about that at a high level, but it may be worthwhile getting down to the next level of detail on those things so that we're better prepared.
Well, with what we know today, I think that we have 4 contingencies that we're assuming that are based on the decisions of the voters. So we really don't know in bloody detail what those all mean, but it does mean that it will reduce the level of service if we have to reduce or limit the number of resources we have. So I feel fairly confident that that we really do understand. And this whole thing, this whole process is being driven by the decision-making of taxpayers. And consequently, we will adjust our level of service in order to balance that. So, and I think that has to be an important message that we're sending out. We try to be very clear about that message in our public meeting that we had, and we're trying to emphasize that as much as we can in our information that we're providing. So I think it is. I think we have a fairly clear path, and we know where the critical points are. And
Right, I agree with that. I know that if this happens, we go that way, if it doesn't, we go that way. All I'm saying is, I think it would behoove us to lay out in one more level of detail what that means if we go down that path.
okay,
And I'm just using that as an example. I think there may be other things. And the intent of this was to be teaming up more discussion involving the full board, not just the chief and chair doing the plan for next year. I think it's important to involve all of us in that process. So I'm just bringing that up as an example, not saying that's the only thing that we could talk about.
yeah. Certainly we can do that. Might not be a bad strategic thing to do so that everybody really clearly understands what the 4 options mean. That could be something we could plan to do as a process prior to setting our budget.
You know, I think the intent is that we should have a meeting where coming out of that, we have an agreement on what your goals for 2024 will be.
Right.
And then you can write the policy.
Well, let me think about that one and put a straw dog together and see. Hopefully.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, we set a course and we're on it. So I don't think we need to do a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
But I do think it's
Understanding the consequences.
and it helps your planning, I think, and helps us all, the work we do in September and October, reviewing and approving it. Curl up, in August, we're on the same page. It makes the rest of that process go. a lot smoother.
For a part of it, it will, yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, let me jumble around with that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Just one quick thing. I hadn't really talked about having another public forum regarding the levy, the ballot measure. And I guess I'm assuming that we might need another one. Do any of y'all have any thoughts on that? You don't have to talk about it right now, but it would be something nice if you all think that it would be a good thing to have another one. I'd like to hear your thoughts or ideas on it. So
Well, you talked about a potential mailing if we did one specifically on the levy, that you would do that approximately a month prior to the ballot. And I would think that, if we were going to do another meeting, we would kind of combine it in about the same time frame. So sometime in July, we would provide that opportunity. I think with the information that we've produced and are going to have available, the messaging that Drew has talked about that we're going to be putting out there, there may be more mumblings and discussion about it. And so when we advertise that we're going to have a meeting, we'll get a little more attention. I think so. I think it would be a really good idea if we did it some kind of an early July.
Well, I would say do the mailer and then have the meeting. So
Yeah,
give it that week because that's, they gotta see the mailer first before.
When does the mailer go out? Does anybody know when that's officially gonna be like getting into people's hands?
sorry.
Do you know when the ballot is actually gonna be going in circulation? Just for timing purposes from like a posting standpoint and everything that we're doing. I hate to have our golden nugget, it's gonna push somebody over a yes or a no, be after they already voted and put it in the mail. So I just wanna make sure I have my time frame right.
That's a really good question.
I had it on a,
And you don't have to get it to me now, chief. It's just more something I'm trying to timeline our stuff together.
They usually go out 2 weeks before the election day.
Election date is August,
Second Tuesday in August.
second Tuesday in August.
Some Tuesday in August.
I think that's usually what it is. First,
August 1st is what the big group going.
well, yeah, the election is on August first.
on August first, okay,
It is August first.
first Tuesday.
Let's just check.
I think I agree with your thought that a separate mailer on this. I think the newsletter, I think prepare for another public meeting and talk, you may get more questions, concerns that people have. And you can then address those, right? You might decide not to do it, but be prepared for it.
I don't have your,
So that'd be about mid-July, about the 15th, something like that.
I did have one more thing too, I wanted to add, Chief Lemay, you can fill in on this one too. We had talked as a COT about the trifold, to going to like some of our very few public places that we do have amongst the community. And that's something that I mean, I don't know where it's at, but I'd like to see that happen. It's something that we can get those flyers out to people that are actually in the few like businesses that we have, like the Merck, the Harbor. And it allows us as well as I kind of put it out there as crew members, as the front line, we can go out periodically and check those, make sure they don't need to be restocked and whatnot.
Right.
And also allow the opportunity for some potential engagement with the community. Because that's really how I found this thing to be going is people really want to see your face in this community. It's not very social media driven, although we are doing that.
Yeah.
But it's really going to come down to us actually engaging as best we can. So that's my 2 cents on it anyways. I'd like to see that happen. I think we're working on it. Yeah.
Okay. You get everything that you needed, chief? All right. We are down to the secretary's report.
And I have 2 sets of minutes I put out there. One was a little late, but it was the minutes from our public meeting. And the others from our last board meeting. I don't believe you had any changes.
I had a change.
Oh, I had shown, one of them, I had said that Chief Van Camp wasn't there, but he really was. So I did fix that.
Yes.
What?
Okay, so we have 2 sets of minutes.
Yes, were there any questions on those?
No, none.
I make a motion that we approve the April 11th and the March 30th minutes as they are written.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes.
And are there any questions for clarity on the warrants?
I had none.
I have none.
Okay,
I make a motion that we approve the warrants for April 7th through May 31st.
I'll second that. All right, that's been moved and seconded. Any discussion, any questions? All in favor? Aye.
thank you.
Okay,
And the only announcement that I was going to provide, but I've already shared it, is that the newsletter is tentatively going to be emailed this week, to next week, at some point.
Wait, say that again?
A newsletter is going out in the next week or so.
Okay.
And the front of the newsletter has a story on the history, our 70th history. There's a story on the stair climb, and then the chief story, and then we are highlighting our 2 new firefighters that are going to be graduating in June.
June 3rd.
Graduation to June 3rd.
ballots are measured or mailed out on July 14th for primary.
All right, I've got the announcements taken care of. Are there any commissioner comments?
No, just that Lonzo, you did a great job, and Mr. Hall, you were very informative. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, review and follow-up.
Keep you all posted on developments as far as the ballot measures going. We will schedule a meeting on the 23rd, some point to review and hopefully approve the bids for Station 81 sanitary septic project. I will sit down and look at one of the items for our planning for next year's session to talk about strategizing for the next budget cycle. That's all I have, sir.
Okay. Any other business before the board? With that, we'll adjourn our meeting. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
No comments.